Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/getstarted for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. And despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting live and direct from the SHR Media Network studios. They are sumptuous, they are palatial, they are frenetic. Just thought I'd throw that one in there tonight. You got a belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Tonight, it is July the 11th already, year of our Lord 2019. And Angel is going to be your bartendress tonight. She pours with the best of them. The lava lamp is, in fact, lighted to my left, your right. You can't quite see it in this scene, but you will be seeing it very shortly. That indicates that you can listen and chat at shrmedia.com. shrmedia.com, listen and chat right there. If you want to watch the show, you can watch the show on Big Sarge Media, the Big Sarge Media Facebook page, the SHR Media Facebook page, and the SHR Media YouTube channel, with two very important exceptions that I'll get to in just a moment. I got to tell you, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight in the first hour, crossed toes, crossed eyes, we're going to be speaking to the exceptional conservative, who happens to be Ken McCLENTON. And let's see if I can change this here. There's a couple of very important reasons that I wanted to speak to Ken tonight. And if anybody has ever listened to me on Ken's show when I'm on Mondays, Ken knows that I kind of mess with him a little bit. And for those of you who listen, I'm going to alert you of this fact. And I'm going to be cognizant of the potentiality of Ken himself deciding that he's going to screw with me in the same fashion that I allegedly screw with him, in terms of I try not to let him get to the topic that he decided that he wanted to talk about. So we'll see if Ken is there. And that's okay, because if Ken isn't, like I say, Boy, do I have a ton of topics. But first, let's see if I have technologically and digitally reached all the way from the far, far, far reaches of the left coast, all the way across the United Snakes of America, up to the northeast portion of the United Snakes of America, into Washington, D.C., into the D.C. area, and actually acquired the ossicles of the exceptional conservative himself, Sir Ken of McCLENTON. And are you there, sir?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Score one. Okay. Ken, one. I'll be keeping score this entire hour. Okay. Ken, 1. BZ, 0. And I told everybody before. Here's the deal, Ken. I told everybody before I called you. I told everyone, okay, here's what BZ customarily does on Ken's show. Let's see if Ken does this on BZ's show. And that's why I say at this point, Ken 1, BZ 0. And that might be the way it goes the rest of the entire first hour. But first, Ken, how are you, sir? It is so good to see you, hear you.
It's very good to see you, too. You lost some weight.
Oh, right. It's because I took off that 100-pound backpack that I was carrying. And when I finally put it down, yeah, you're right. I did lose some weight. Other than that, not a gram of my standard avoirdupois. But thank you for saying that.
I love the way your glutes fit.
Thank you. Thank you.
I tell you, your audience is definitely in tow for a very, very good and educational experience working with the exceptional one. So thank you for allowing me to waste your airtime.
Okay. Hey, turnabout is only fair play. Thank you for allowing me to waste anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes of your airtime on Mondays during your show. So I appreciate that in kind.
Listen, you're the only reason that Mary Brockman tunes in. So, hey.
Hey, I no matter whether I'm on or not, and I sneak in sometimes, she's always in chat, so I know that she is very, very loyal to you. I know that for a factorious.
I love Mary Brockman. Mary Brockman is my girl.
She is good peeps, and God, where did I see this? Might be on Facebook. I went spooking around and see what I did there, and found some photographs of other persons.
You would be Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. Oh, don't think we're not going to talk about that. Oh yeah. Okay, guilty, one each. That. Damn, what was I saying? Oh, that I found a photograph of Mary Brockman, so I actually now know what she looks like, and I think it was either you or Sean or somebody was attending some kind of a conference, and she's in a photo, I think with Sean, if I'm not mistaken.
We were at Freedom Fest.
Was it the first Freedom Fest?
Yeah. It was the first Freedom Fest that SHR attended. Mary Brockman won the contest of who loves Ken most. I was really shocked that my wife came in a distant fourth.
Oh, no, not Mrs. Biggs. Not Mrs. Biggs.
She actually told me that she didn't want to even compete. She withdrew. But, sad times. Mary Brockman was escorted out to Las Vegas. And we stayed at the Jockey Club. Oh, my. What a wonderful time. And I must tell you that what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay there. I'm just saying.
Well, sometimes it does. Now, and I always tell this story when I haven't spoken to you for a while. I first met Ken in it's the first time. 2016. I had just retired, and I met you at the Freedom Fest in Las Vegas in 2016 for the first time. And you were there with the Underground Professor, Michael Jones, and myself, and Clint, and Sean. And it was a grand time. We did a couple of shows together. We did a bunch of shows. And then from that, I always have to tell people that when I started with SHR and went to Freedom Fest under the SHR Media auspices and met you and a bunch of other people that were very, very kind. I didn't even have my show yet. I didn't even have my own show yet. I was nothing but a damn mule that was used to hump equipment, SHR Media equipment, into the Kraut car, drive it south from Sacramento to Lost Wages, hump all this heavy equipment out of my Kraut car. It cost me an exorbitant wage to have that damn thing parked. And then I, in my seventh decade, had to hump all this equipment from these young bucks who weren't even there yet, who hadn't even landed on the airport yet. And I was toiling. There was sweat running down my back and into my ass crack, hauling all this equipment for a bunch of ungrateful whelps that actually were the owners of the SHR Media Network. And that's how I got my start. But you were the first person who actually allowed me onto their air first before I even got my own radio show and before I even got into and started bigfooting the Sackheads radio shows. So I will always say this. It is with a ton of gratefulness that I appreciate then and now, as always. You're having the confidence and the niceness to invite me onto your show on Mondays. And I appreciated it then, and I have to tell you, I appreciate it now, all the things that you did for me then and continue to do. So thank you ever so kindly for that, Ken McCLENTON.
Dude, I really love you, and I really appreciate you. And I just want to say that I thank Barack Hussein Obama for extending within Section 4 of the Obamacare Act the affirmative action piece, which allowed me to bring you on to TECN TV,
right,
being that it was a mostly black network. So being that we are able to fill that quota every single week with you is greatly appreciated. Now, don't think that that you were the fifth or sixth choice, and that Clint decided, not to do any cameo appearances as he does on Wednesday nights.
Right. Right. Rarely.
It was always you. It was always you, man.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to point out this very important salient fact that for whatever reason, Ken McCLENTON has failed to address, and that is, for example, when you prosecute someone under the federal code 42 U.S.C. 1983, that's called a 1983 action, the federal government pays attorneys in order to sue people for the deprivation of civil rights under that specific section. And as Ken was mentioning, he also was graciously paid by the United States government to have a minority, Caucasoid, me on the show. He thinks I don't know that he received payments from the federal government for that, but I'm just kind of pointing out the obvious. Now, it wasn't anything that you could take to the bank, and you couldn't even use that amount of money for the tune-up that's required yearly on your 2017 Rolls-Royce Phantom. But still in all, it's not a princely sum, but it's an amount of money that can be used for TECN. And funny that TECN now came up. Because here's the dealio, as I am wont to do with all the people that I speak to, especially when they have a presence on media, they're involved in radio or television, as you are. My apologies. Sir Ken McCLENTON, please tell us where you can be found on social media, and I think most appropriately, tell us about TECN and where you can be found and seen, your show, on TECN. And what does that stand for, by the way?
Well, Jeremy Corbin, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come before the great people of Sacramento and California, IA,
right,
and around the world.
Right.
You can find me at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com, theexceptionalconservativeshow.com, and our network has been on the air for over 3 years. We've had some great hosts who have started on our program and gone on, others who are coming on board and have worked there. We have Pastor Greg Young, who's there. We have a litany of other great hosts as well. But you can find me on Monday through Fridays when I'm not vacationing. Please don't say anything, Mary. When I'm not vacationing, you can find me on Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And we deliver the best in urban conservative talk. They're based on 5 basic principles: Christianity, conservatism, constitutionalism, capitalism, individual sovereignty, and as well, wait a minute. It's 5 of them. Constitutionalism, Christianity, conservatism, capitalism, and individual. So yeah, I got it all. Got it all there.
Okay.
And 5.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Admirable, as per normal. The British had a couple of those. Admirable Nelson was very important historical UK naval figure. Not a naval gazer, but a naval figure. Just thought I'd put that in. And in the chat room, let's see, Mike made a very important and salient note in the chat room. Folks, if you want to go to the chat room in the saloon, you can listen on Spreaker. Go to shrmedia.com, and you can listen to the show there, not watch, but just listen to the show. That's where we have the chat room. In the chat room, Mike has said, and I want to address this. He said, BZ, where's the Facebook feed? Well, okay. Short story is I tried starting it 5 times because I have 2 Facebook feeds, and all 5 times, twice, it killed me every time. So that's when I decided, okay, I was able to start the YouTube feed. So folks, if you want to see what's actually happening here in the studio, go to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Or just go to YouTube and put in SHR Media. You'll get there. So the video can be watched there because the damn Facebook page wouldn't let me start up either one. So you can watch me there, SHR Media YouTube channel. Or you can listen, go to shrmedia.com and listen to the show. And then jump into the chat room because that's the only place I monitor. So go into the chat room, shrmedia.com.
BZ.
I know BZ. Yes, you're right. I do know BZ.
You do. You know him, and I know him too. A lot of people look at us as conservatives like we've done something wrong because social media doesn't want to hear us, which is why I was speaking last weekend at the Demand Free Speech rally. But when you talk to fellow conservatives, okay, let me just go there. Okay, when I talk to fellow black conservatives, all right, it's like, what did you do, man? Like, did you say something wrong? Or, like, did you not apologize to Mike Zuckerberg or something?
Right.
I mean, how dare you? I mean, like, I know you got banned from Twitter from 2.5 years, Kim, but maybe it was something you did. Or maybe you just came on board with YouTube and was banned for 6 months.
Right.
You've been banned many times from Facebook. What did you do? Could it possibly be that I'm conservative?
Oh, jeez. See, that is how, folks, another reason that I wanted to have Ken on is to show you as a perfect live illustration of how just zany and just way out Ken can be. Ken can frequently be an extremely unreasonable character. And this is a perfect illustration right now because one of the first things that I'm thinking is when Facebook does something like that. Ken, what did you do? Ken, what did you do again? It's Ken. It's Ken. It's Ken. Ken, what did you do? When I hear that,
you go to the bar. If you go to the bar and you say, like, my wife beats me, and they'd be like, what did you do? No, dude, my wife beats me.
Yeah. Or the perfect corollary question is, when did your wife stop beating you?
Yeah. want you all to know that both DC and I are happily married.
Yes, we are.
No comment, no joke was intended for home.
No.
So after this particular program, please do not beat us.
That's right.
Okay.
And remember, this is an exhibition, not a competition. So please, no wagering tonight. No wagering. I ask it customarily. I ask folks on the Sackheads Against Tyranny show. I ask people that question. Please don't do it tonight because of Ken. I think it would be appropriate for me to ask that very selfsame question. However, now that Ken is here, though, Ken, I wanted originally to have Ken, and this is the reason that I asked him here tonight. He attended on July 7th, if I'm not mistaken.
6th.
July 6th, okay. You attended a D.C. rally at Freedom Plaza called Demand Free Speech. And then you're going to make, if I'm not mistaken, and again, correct me, you're going to make an appearance. You've been invited by the gentleman's name, I cannot remember now, of the Department of Energy to speak about energy itself. But because this is Ken is going to do his very level best to make sure that he delays me talking about these topics as long as possible. So instead, I've decided to ask Ken this, because I had Jeremy Hansen on last night, and Jeremy Hansen is kind of, I don't know if you know him or not, but he's similar to you, Ken McCLENTON, in terms of he has a show, a 2-hour show, 5 days a week. And he doesn't, he's not a syndicated guy. He's not on terrestrial radio. And he, and I have a few things in common. I do not broadcast nearly as much as you do, and certainly not as much as he does. But in the roughly 5 minutes that we have left before the bottom of the hour break, I would like to ask you this, the same thing that I asked Jeremy. And it's in terms of broadcasting. Just to get serious, just for a moment, and we'll go back to all the bullshit we were doing before. But having said that, 1 2-hour show a week is a challenge to come up with a sufficient amount of content. I broadcast 2 2-hour shows a week, and every once in a while when Clint gets here, which is every third odd Wednesday when the sun is out of the west and the winds are blowing at approximately 35 miles an hour, and I've seen an iguana cross my path as I'm driving a 1957 Peterbilt truck with that kind of occasionality on Wednesday, meaning, well, it doesn't happen all that well. But potentially, I know. But potentially, I am tasked with coming up with 6 hours of content a week. You're tasked with coming up with 10 hours, just like Jeremy Hansen, of good content a week that people want to listen to. Otherwise, you lose listeners and you lose viewers. And keeping a listener is incredibly important if you have a message. You want to get out that message, and you want to expand or grow your audience. So as I asked Jeremy, 10 hours a week, and I think you do more than that if I'm not mistaken, because you're active on the weekends.
Yeah.
How do you come up with 2 hours a day, 10 hours plus a week, which is professional content time? That's just like professional big boys and girls are expected to come up with on big, huge syndicated radio shows. And you're no different, because yours is very professional in terms of its production. How do you come up with 2 hours of good, great content a day? I am challenged with 4 to 6. 10 hours plus a week? That's tough.
I'd like to first give honor and glory and credit to God for giving me the 5 senses and then placing me in a city like Washington, D.C. All I need to do is turn on television and watch AOC. 5 minutes of AOC gives you enough airtime for a whole month. Right there, AOC, right there. And I grew up in Washington, D.C. I'm a native Washingtonian. And so politics is just in my blood. In politics, economics, faith, the Constitution, you name it, it's in me. So no matter what it is, I'm able to, by the grace of God, come on the air and talk to people about the opinions that I have and share the opinions with others, and also find the actual facts as to why liberals are so screwed up in the mind, body, and soul. And quite frankly, they give me enough material in and of itself to do that. You're right. It is a very difficult thing. It's a challenging thing because you have to first be educational, but you also have to be entertaining.
Yes.
Because no one's going to sit there and listen to you prophesize, be professorial for a 2-hour period of time. You got to have fun. You got to enjoy life. And people need to see that. I also have a great staff. Dr. Jane Ruby is my network advisor. My producer, oh my God, is Bonnie Williams. Okay, and talk about contentious. Oh my God. She will vote Republican, but she is a Democrat in name. And I added her to my network, and I must say that bringing her on has made my show incredibly better, much, much better, because I get to debate with her before I go on the air. And normally by that time period, my blood corpuscles are so heightened at that point that I'm ready to perform at the highest level possible. But I will tell you, all conservatives out there, I know you want to be, Puritan pure, but the best thing that you can do is diversify your staff, have people on your staff that do not agree with you. And basically from that particular point on, you're going to be very successful because you're going to give the very best of who you are in answer to who they are as well. And then, of course, the indomitable Mary Brockman, who I actually, believe it or not, Mary Brockman is the only person that I send a note to let her know that I'm not going to be on the air that night. We did a estimate calculation of, since I've been on the air, which is somewhat 9 years, we've done over 2,500 shows.
Wow. Since
I've been on the air. And the woman who has been there for more than 95% of those, besides Mrs. Biggs, is, of course, the indomitable Mary Brockman. And Mary Brockman, and I got another story about Dr. Jane when we come back from the break, but Mary Brockman was the one who told me. I was at 5 shows into my career, and I was ready to give it up and go back to, the important things like fantasy football. And Mary Brockman listened to me, and she said at the end of my 5th show, don't you dare give up. I will be here, and I'm going to get others to be here. And since that time period, we became the #1 show on SHR Media, and then after leaving SHR Media, we became one of the most recognized networks, urban conservative networks in the country, and the first one to actually do 24/7 coverage of CPAC just last year, or just this year. So if it were not for the encouragement of Mary Brockman, where would we be? Probably enjoying life a whole lot more.
Wow. Okay, she's not here, and I don't see in her chat, but I'll say this for her. It's like, Mary, wow. Holy moly. Okay, we're going to have to hit a break. We're talking to Kenneth McCLENTON, Sir Ken of McCLENTON. He is live from D.C., and we're talking about TECN. We'll talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. He does have a production staff, and he made a very important point, I think. When you have people on your staff who oppose you, that have opinions that are different than yours, and you can sit down over a nice cup of coffee and have a discussion over different opinions and then come and express them on your show. Well, I only have one person. It's me. I am my staff. I am my production. I am everyone. So in lieu of doing that, what I like to do is I'll slap myself, walk down to the end of the street, and then I start to yell at traffic. And then if somebody then gives me another opinion, then I'll listen to that, and it looks kind of like somebody's like some kind of a crazy guy, because I hold a sign up and it says I will produce for food.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the first hour of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm sitting in the sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent SHR Media studios, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines 2 miles behind occupied California. Okay, Ken is on tonight, and I have booted my re-intro. Thank you very much, Ken. I couldn't even say it. I couldn't even get it out of my mouth, and it's okay. It's that Ken thing. Okay, so Ken, let's see. I am keeping score tonight. Let's see. That's Ken 2 right here. 2 BZ nothing 0 zip. The null set. Okay, good. I'm keeping score, and I will continue to keep score the rest of the night. We're speaking to the lugubriously lugubrious Sir Ken of McCLENTON of TECN, the mostly, yes, primarily of the Exceptional Conservative Network, because Ken is the exceptional conservative. And he's speaking all the way from D.C., which, as we all know, in terms of, we were talking about radio and broadcasting and whatnot, D.C. is, in fact, a target-rich environment for stupidity and subject matter, and that's what we were talking about before we were so shockingly interrupted by promos and an actual ad. And we'll only shockingly be interrupted by those, with those, at the top and bottom of the hour. However, I think maybe now, more than ever, it's time to get back into why I wanted to have Ken on here tonight, because this has already occurred. There was a demand free speech rally that occurred July 6th at Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C. Ken was in attendance. So, Ken, maybe you can tell us, A, what was that all about? B, what happened? And C, can there actually be freedom of speech in D.C., for one thing?
Well, thank you so much for having me on your program this evening. And I want to speak to the good men and women of Tim Kaine's Antifa. Hey, boys. I didn't get any of your acid thrown on me.
Yeah, gotta love domestic terrorists.
You gotta love. Listen, the only thing that replicates terrorism well is the Democrat Socialist Party of America.
Yes.
Whether it's the KKK or Black Panthers,
Robert Byrd,
hey, you name it, Jim Crow. Nothing says hate better than the Democrat Socialist Party.
Right.
And this is how weak the Republican Party is. It has to apologize for what the Democrat Socialist Party has done all the years in existence. But I was asked, and actually guided by my network advisor, Dr. Jane Ruby, who is a warrior. That woman is a beast. Okay, I'm telling you, as sweet and she's just so sweet, Mediterranean princess. You just walk up on her and say, "Oh, you're so beautiful," and then she cuts your throat out.
Yeah, and then as you're lying bleeding in the gutter, she turns to you and she says, "I beat the brakes off of that one."
And Tifa, you would have no shot for Dr. Jane Ruby, but we were asked to go and speak to support freedom of speech in America. Now, Laura Loomer was there, Milo was there, and there were many others. Colonel Rob Maness was there. There were a multitude of great speakers. I don't know why they asked me. I think they wanted me to serve the drinks. Why you want me to speak?
Yeah, that's so wrong.
Like I'm here, and so we got an opportunity because many of the individuals, the primary ones, the Alex Jones of the world, the Milos, the Laura Loomers of the world, are experiencing what you and I experience every single day, but we don't have a large enough platform often to talk about. I remember when I spoke with you many years ago about the fact that I have been banned by Twitter for 2.5 years. Like, Alex Jones, like, welcome to the club. Okay, you just got here. Have a seat.
Okay, can I interrupt you just for a second? Because that's a bit of information that I did not know. Maybe you assumed that I did. I did not know that you were banned from Twitter, not just for the standard 60 days or 30 days or 90 days. You are saying that you were banned from Twitter for 2 years.
2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years. And many people kept asking me, Ken, so like, are you appealing it or whatever? And I'm like asking you. It's like, okay, who in the Nazi Party do I appeal to?
Yeah, well, let's see. It's not that really black-haired, slicked-back dude named Joseph Goebbels. That's not the guy that you try to make any kind of a cogent appeal to. That's not working.
Hey, Joe. Hey, dude. I'm going to the top. I want to talk to Hitler.
Yeah.
Who do you talk to? Mike Zuckerberg, you know, the guys at Twitter, all the other social media. Who do you talk to? This how oh my God. If you are, and I'm going to offend a lot of people, but I want to say it right here.
Oh, do.
If you are a conservative and you have not been banned, you're not doing it right. You're the pussy that's the problem.
There used to be a way that I determined whether or not I was shadow banned, and I put that post on Twitter and had that post on Twitter removed by Twitter itself, and only then by going to another search engine and running my little @bzep thing, I found out, oh yeah, dude, you are shadow banned. It's just like,
exactly.
It's like you can't write this stuff because two things are prevalent in the social media world today. Number one, if you're banned or suspended, they may tell you, they may not tell you. Yeah. And then number two, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Ken McCLENTON, they will never tell you specifically what it is that you wrote or posted that violated whatever nebulous terms they indicate the violation included. They will never tell you that.
Never.
Never.
In fact, let me give you a modern update.
Okay. All right.
A lot of people think, oh well, that's Ken McCLENTON. You know what I'm saying? It couldn't possibly happen to me. That's just Ken. So I get into a great deal of contention with my cousin, who is a professor at a historically black college or university.
Okay.
As he is like lost on the plantation fields of America, looking for the tumbleweed that will bring him back to the utopia of socialism. And somehow he received a notification from Facebook that one of my particular postings was considered racist, and that Facebook gave him the option of taking either deleting it from his feed or deleting me as a friend. And then he calls me. Firstly, he sends me a note telling me, Ken, you need to keep your racist stuff off my feed.
Oh, yeah, because it's your problem. It's your fault. It's your fault, mister.
Dude, the last time you looked, who was in charge of Facebook? Was it Ken McCLENTON? No. And so in Swahili, I told him, well, I'm going to tell you, a lot of people will be offended if I said it on my own show. But you could take the Swahili. If you look this up, people, I take the Swahili and said, you are a grown donkey. You control your own destiny. I suggest you go control it now. Basically saying, why are you complaining to me about something that's happening in your news feed? You're in control of your own news feed. Right. You have the right to put stuff there or not. So we have a lot of insolent, ignorant individuals who are so, and this is on the left and the right. I don't always agree with those who are on the right who are saying, well, we got to make Twitter do something. No, just form your own Twitter. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
You got the freedom. Use it. And so one of the worst things that we've done in America is that we told people that diversity is built on the fact that we all must be fair, we all must be equal, and we must all get along. I don't know what playpen you've ever been in, but none of us are all equal. None of us are all fair, and we all don't get along. Can I get an amen? So why are you asking Facebook to be fair to a conservative when their mainstay, their whole interest is to destroy America, destroy the Constitution, destroy the flag, and make sure that you end up being a charter member of Venezuela's future?
No, it's
You're asking too much.
It's true. Those are facts and evidence. I want to ask you 3 questions.
Sure.
Did in the rally that you attended, and maybe this is a silly question, but did anyone come to any, I don't know, not necessarily a conclusion, but a semi-consensus of where it is that conservatives need to go or what they need to do in the future with regard to social media? And there's a reason for me asking that question. But in that rally, it was just a rally for support, or was there any kind of a semi-consensus reached?
Well, I believe that we all, because there were a lot of personalities there, and this is one of the problems with conservatism, modern conservatism. In the old day, Reagan was the icon, and everyone wanted to be like Reagan. In our day now, we're all social media icons. We got like 3 followers, and so we are the cat's meow. So personality prevails. The unfortunate thing about that is most people are so self-interested that they don't understand the complete and total cause of what free speech is, even conservatives. The whole idea about free speech is I'm okay with you saying whatever you say to me because I'm a grown A man.
Yes.
And I can take it.
Yes.
Sticks and stones for words. Okay? So out of that free speech-ism, okay, a lot of people have been caught up on I'm more important if I am the main speaker or if the whole conference or something or cause or whatever revolves around me. I have to be the Candace Owens of your life. And the truth of the matter is, everyday speech is what we should be fighting for, the common man, that the individual who doesn't have 5 million Twitter followers or 35,000 Facebook followers, that person's speech is just as important as your speech, and that there's no such thing as hate speech, because hate speech is built around the fact that someone out there is censoring somebody else for saying something that they don't like. We got a pussification problem in America, and until we deal with that, it doesn't matter how many conferences or rallies that we have supporting something that the Founding Fathers put together and has lasted for so long. We will always be going chasing after the wind rather than standing afoot on the rocks of the Constitution itself.
You make an excellent point. And if we continue on the current path, what you just said, I believe, is archived in stone, meaning that it will continue this way in perpetuity. If conservatives think that they are ever going to get any kind of a toehold in social media to the point where they have even a modicum of the amount of power that leftists do in social media, perish the thought, that shit isn't going to happen. That's just not going to happen. So you have to reconcile your mindset that as things are now, this is your plight, this is where you are in social media, and that will never change. Absent
we're asking people. I mean, I've been on the air for 10 years, almost 10 years, something to that effect. And you've been on the air for a number of years with SHR. And we still got conservatives who say, I wish there was a conservative network I could listen to because Fox isn't it. And I'm like, dude, do you get out much?
Yeah. Do you not have access to the thing that apparently most leftists don't have? That is the internet. Cannot you find a search engine and discover, like leftists apparently can't, discover videos and audio that are archived and immured past stupidity of leftists? And the answer is, well, apparently you can't get onto the internet and find any kind of a conservative show. That is how sad that is.
But why are you waiting for someone to give you something that you got to fight and get? That's just the whole idea. The whole idea is that Google is not going to tell you that BZ's on at 11 o'clock at night. And I've had people send me messages saying, well, Dr. Jane, is she going to be on your network? Well, why don't you go to Facebook and see it? Oh, you can't, because Facebook's not going to tell you. So the thing is, if you have theexceptionalconservativeshow.com, or if you have an SHRmedia.com, if you have those particular things, why don't you star that particular thing, and then you become the messenger to the world. Stop waiting for BZ to tell you what time he's going to be on. You be there, and then you tell 15 or 20 of your other friends, they be there too in the chat room. And, chat room used to be the place for the Samuel Adams of America. Now it's just a place for people to, laissez-faire and find out what the recipe that they're going to use this weekend. We have to begin understanding we are at war. We are not, this is not we're just in a debate. No, we are at war for the conscience of America.
Absolutely. And as I am frequently wont to do when people make a point, an incredible point, this is the stage in the show, which I do that because Ken has the point of the night, and then issue number 2, that's now Ken 3, BZ 0, because I am keeping score. Mm-hmm. And so let me run this past you and solicit your input in terms of this. Social media is insisting that it is, and I have an article that I'm going to read by David French from NationalReview.com about the second circuit.
Don't forget to clear your throat. Don't forget to clear your throat.
Thank you. But let me throw this out. Social media is going to tell you, they're going to insist, and a lot of other people that I think don't have a good grasp of all of this, including the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. I'm submitting that social media has now gotten to the point where it is not just a platform. It has been proven now over the months and the years to be two things. Number one, it is an editor because it edits. You and I know we have been not just edited, we have been censored, which I guess you could say is editing in a sense itself. Therefore, I'm going to do an if-then equation. If social media says it's a platform, but we know it to be an editor, and therefore, in my opinion, it's a publisher, which would lend credence to the fact that I don't think it's a platform anymore, then as a publisher, in theory, social media should be subject to all the laws of libel, slander, lawsuits, suppression of speech, etc., and yet they continuously fall back on we're just a platform. With two major exceptions. And I'll let you speak in just a second. Just two major exceptions. What are the rules? Well, you've said what the rules are, but you don't make the rules plain, and then you don't apply the rules equitably across all the platforms. Because if in any kind of a training scenario, for example, if you want to change someone's behavior or performance, you let them know what it is that they've done that is improper, and social media specifically will never let conservatives know, because only then will they be exposed even more. Now, having said all of that crap, Ken, any thoughts on your end?
That would be the Thomas Paine here, and I hate that because Thomas Paine ended up being a social enlightenment dogma unto himself, more idealistic than actually applicable theoretical. But let me be the Thomas Paine here and say, what Mark Zuckerberg put together let no man destroy. And what I will say in terms of this is that we keep begging the master to stop treating us like a slave. And the only way that you can stop the master from being the slave is by freeing yourself from the master. And so really, I know that people are talking about making Facebook and making social media, Twitter and all the other utilities, but you're giving the power of free speech to be regulated by AOC, by Ilhan Omar, by Ayanna Pressley, by Tlaib. You're giving power to government to do something for which our founding fathers said we have a God-given natural right to preserve for ourselves. Stop begging Facebook and YouTube to do something for you that you can do for yourself. What I find very, people say, well, that's a grandiose ideological thought, but they're hurting people. Well, you only hurt people who can be allowed to be hurt. You have a platform, a very demonstrative platform every night that you're on the air. I have one every night that I'm on the air. I have a network, a television network, and yet the majority, believe it or not, the majority of people that watch my network are liberals.
Really now?
They watch that? Yeah.
Really now? How is it that you've managed to determine that? I'm really curious.
23% of my audience is from Washington, D.C. 90% of the audience out of Washington, D.C. is liberal. So nearly a quarter of my listenership is out of Washington, D.C. They ain't sitting around wondering when's the next time I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. Or, gosh darn it, we need to take that abortion thing and change it. No, these guys are not thinking it. They're sitting there saying, oh, my God, this person has found a way to defy us. This person will not bow to us. This person has decided not to follow the way of John Jay, but actually follow the way of Thomas Jefferson and say, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to find a way to defy you and to defeat you at every risk that I take. And yet, conservatives, the same ones who walk the aisles of CPAC saying, I can't wait to take a picture with Candace Owens because that would make me, it would make me great and influential too because I take a picture with this person. No, it's like, dude, that's not why we're here. Why we're here is to energize and charge one another to go back and be the Samuel Adams, to be the George Mason, to be the ones who go into the world and say, you know what? Screw you, George Washington. We are not going to run this country the way you want to and without a Bill of Rights. So, unfortunately, there are people running around wanting George Washington and Alexander Hamilton to move away from central planning, which includes planning of control of speech. That's not going to happen. It's a natural function of government to concise itself and to oppress others. The greatest thing about America, for those who are listening around the world, especially in Guyana, because you're about to become the number 2 oil-producing country in the world, you need to get away from socialism and you need to become a free nation. Liberal, free nation, classical liberal, not progressive. What you need to understand is that our founding fathers, who were erroneous in some of their decision-making, always looked for the greater part of who humanity would be, not getting close to divinity, but reaching out to touch humanity, to divinity, and saying, you know what? There are certain things that government can't touch, one of which is the freedom to speak and speak clearly, either against those who are in power or for those who are in power. And in fact, those people can't stand in those seats unless you, the people, are powerful enough to make them stand in those seats. That's the greatness. The greatness of America is not the government. It is not the economy. It is not even the churches. The greatest thing about America is that every man, woman, and child, including the ones who drowned trying to get here, every man, woman, and child is free and created free in the eyes of God. So in that particular case, government can never defeat us. We are the ones who hold government in control. So if conservatives really believe that, if those who are libertarian really believe that, number one, stop asking what time BZ comes on. Write it down, 11 o'clock, and then let everybody else know in your little Facebook corner of the world, this is what I'm going to be doing. You come here and watch. Number two, the cause of freedom is going to cost you something. I don't go to family reunions. I don't go to birthday parties in my family in Washington, D.C., because I am an outcast. I sacrifice my family, my wealth, because I could be doing a whole lot of other things, and I'm not allowed to because people find out I'm a conservative and they don't want to be bothered. It requires your honor. If you're not willing to give those up, just go ahead and watch CNN, because that's where we're going.
We're past the break, and the break can wait.
Sorry.
That's okay. The break can wait. I'm going to submit another. I went to the if-then theory, and I'm going to throw the then out now. I think we're on the cusp of a lot of things changing, Ken McCLENTON, and there are two major changes that I see coming, and oddly enough, it was Ron Edwards who pointed out one aspect of this, and then it made me realize, okay, well, that's going to lead to the second. The first is because there's so much censorship going on in terms of, and truly, I'll sooner or later, my show on the internet in some fashion is going to be targeted. It already has.
Yeah, it already has.
And it will be like a rolling tsunami where the freedom that I have right now on the internet may be short-lived. But here's what isn't short-lived. Terrestrial radio. Terrestrial radio was in a real conundrum not long ago when they were saying the future of terrestrial radio is the internet. The internet will save us all. Until we discover that we're conservatives and the internet is not saving us, it's deciding to kick us to the curb bloodied. Okay, maybe it's time to go back to terrestrial radio. That's a lot more costly, but you cannot be so readily censored, and it's analog. I'll make another analog point. My final point with you tonight. What we're seeing is the gutting of newsrooms all across the nation. Most of these newsrooms are leftist run. They're bleeding and hemorrhaging viewers, readers, and advertisers. The future for conservatism lies in, I believe conservatives are going to start up new local presses. You can censor the crap out of us on the internet through social media, but you can't censor a local newspaper that prints something and puts it on a stand, and you either get it for free or you buy it. So my point is this, Ken McCLENTON, I think we're going to see a resurgence from the digital domain over to the analog domain. And I think it's coming. That may be in the future of conservatives, because I'm trying to look ahead to the future. Any thoughts on that?
My first thought is that you are one of the most powerful people on television and radio, period. Not because you are as pretty as Trish Regan or as controversial as Shepard Smith. You're powerful because you have a viewpoint and an opinion that you're willing to fight for and willing to sacrifice unto others so that you might free people who might be generations away from you. They may never know the freedom that you had, but they may discover it in terms of picking up the battlefield. In terms of the local media, what's been happening is being misreported. The bottom line is what you're seeing is a circular army, a circular firing squad, per se, of media taking out media.
Yes.
Leftists are taking out leftists.
Oh, my
and so
God,
the greatest thing you can possibly do is stand the hell out of the way. Why are you worried? Don't go in there. Let them kill each other all. Okay? It's the greatest thing in the world when the New York Times and the Washington Post are trying to sell their paper for $1 on the internet. Hey, for 3 months, you can read. No, I don't need to. I can go to the library, get it for free. The bottom line is let them destroy themselves, because that's what the left is built on.
Yes.
The left is built on 3 basic principles: steal, kill, and destroy. And when they can't destroy you, they will destroy themselves. Here's the last thing. Terrestrial radio is over for conservatives. Digital internet is where you need to be, because you still have the true freedom of a libertarian experience on digital radio, on internet radio, and television. You have the freedom. The problem is that we keep chasing the platforms that defile us. Don't chase those platforms that defile us. Create the platforms that defy them, and you will win the battle.
I am really, really glad that we had this talk. And I need to acknowledge one thing very, very important. Ken is on the right coast. I'm on the left coast. It's 9:07 on the left coast. That means it's midnight 07 where Ken is. So I grandly appreciate, number one, you're being up so late at night because you got to do a show tomorrow, and you got to do all the show prep requisite for your show, because tomorrow is today right now as far as you're concerned on the right coast. So thank you very much for being here. Obviously, I'm going to have you back. You've made some absolutely exquisite points, which is why I absolutely love to have you here. And one final time, if people want to watch your show, where can they go to see you and hear what you do and watch what you do every day, Monday through Friday?
They can go directly to theexceptionalconservativeshow.com, theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. You can Google TECN TV. Once you go to our website, you can scroll down. You will see the video. It is best watched on Internet Explorer. Watch it, share it, tell others about it, and come back even if you don't agree with me. I'd rather that you don't agree with me so that we can actually find solutions than to agree with me so that we find adulation and fellowship. I am not Candace Owens. I will not sex you down in terms of prettiness. All right? But I will give you an opinion that is far exceeding in terms of stature and in wisdom.
Okay, one parting notation is I do happen to think that you are rather fetching. That's just my personal opinion. That's just me. That's just me.
We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first the Republican and then our tyrant. God bless you, BZ. I love you, man. I look forward to you coming back on Monday night.
And by the way, am I back this coming Monday, or is it Monday after? I don't remember.
Yeah, you're coming back this Monday. No, you come back this Monday night.
This Monday, okay.
Don't do that. Yeah, don't do that thing where you send your wife calls me and then she has this little note that's been filled out by the physician or something. Don't do that.
Oh, thank you, Ken. Dear Mr. Ken, BZ cannot make it tonight because he is feeling a little ill. Love, Mrs. BZ. No, you're right. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing.
That's not even her handwriting.
Yeah, I know you know it by now. Hell, you know it. You know the phone number. Okay. Ken McCLENTON, God bless you, sir. Take care. We're going to go on a break.
All right.
All right. See ya. All right. Better late than never. 10 minutes after 9. Midnight 010 on the right coast. We'll be right back after this.
Conservative media.
I'm pretty sure.
Done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
It's your business diva here, McCLENTON. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny, on shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Well, we're back for the second hour. We're a little late for the second hour, but I don't know. I was going to make a joke there, but I decided against it. Some things in life are very upsetting when they're late, as some women would tend to know. I'll tell you what we're going to do. How about let's chat and let's speak to a guy that we haven't spoken to or heard from in quite a while. How about that Ron Edwards guy?
No, Supremes, you need to stop in the name of love for country. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, once again, the U.S. Supreme Court chickened out, this time regarding a question that should be posted in the upcoming U.S. Census. The Supremes blocked for now the Trump administration's correct plan to include a question on the 2020 U.S. Census that simply inquires about a person's citizenship status. The ruling not only marks a politically motivated setback for President Trump, but more importantly for the Republic as a whole. The Supreme Court ruling maintains the ability of leftists to cheat in the election process, so illegal border crossers can vote for leftist Democrats who are focused like a laser beam on their mission to literally repeat on a grander scale the evil, destructive madness they inflicted upon the American black community. Let's not forget, approximately 97,000 illegals in Texas voted in recent elections. I'm Ron Edwards. Make sure to join me Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on AmericaMatters.us and the Edwards Notebook on great radio stations like WGUL, Tampa, Florida, overnights during the Captain's America Third Watch.
Ron Edwards, the new voice of America.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
And me as well. I'm BZ. I have, I think maybe it's time to get Ron Edwards back. I enjoy talking to Ron. He's a terrestrial radio guy, and we usually have some great chats about that. There's somebody on the phone, and by the way, the phone lines are, in fact, open now for those of you who are not in the chat room, where I placed the phone number. If you're on video, if you're watching on the SHR Media YouTube channel, the number is on the screen right now. Just did that tonight so that you can remember the number and you can access it for the future, because the phone lines are going to be open for the second hour here. For those of you just on Spreaker audio only, the number is 209-284-3210. 209-284-3210. And because I'm not like the other assholes on terrestrial radio or in the digital realm who don't tell you the damn number more than once and they rip through it quickly, the number is 209-284-3210. 209-284-3210. There's someone on the line right now. I think it's Mike. Go ahead. What do you have to say, sir?
How you doing, DZ?
Doing great, Mike. What is riling your kerfuffle tonight?
What Ken just said about the radio business is actually true. It's incredibly hard to get into it if you don't have the talent, and if you don't, and in particular with this news type talk stuff, they tend to want to pay you for your opinion, and if you don't want to, if they don't want to pay you, then you won't be able to get into it. And furthermore, there's only a certain amount of there are big companies own. There are a couple of big companies in my neck of the woods that these big conglomerates that own like 4, 5, 6 radio stations, and that's the majority of radio stations in the Baton Rouge area.
Okay. Okay.
So, like iHeart, it used to be Cumulus is one, and iHeartRadio, which used to be what was it before? But they own it, and they just got rid of some local guys at iHeartRadio. So, so it's going to be hard to get into radio. Now, newspaper business, that's totally different. That's totally different. You could, I know for one that our local little newspaper here in my town has changed hands no less than 3 times in the last 5 or 6 years. So if you have the money, you can get into the newspaper business. But the radio business, that's totally different. And it's not the fact that you can't. It's incredibly hard for you to even start a radio station because of the regulations. Even if you have the money to get the tower and the equipment and the land and the building and everything else, it's incredibly hard because of the regulations. Even though the current president has kind of loosened some regulations up, there's still big time regulations that you have to go through to get a radio station set up, you know?
You're right, because I was in the radio business for quite some time. I got into it because I happened to know somebody, and at least then, I don't know about now, you definitely had to know someone if you wanted to get into the what is the IBEW? Yeah, I think that was right. You had to be a member of the IBEW, which was the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, to get into terrestrial radio in the 70s, which is where I started. And of course, you have to have an FCC license. You no longer have to do that. I started out with my third, had to get my second, had to get my first, because for a time I was working at KFBK. Which is literally a 50,000 watt clear channel flamethrower. And when we say clear channel, that's where Clear Channel Broadcasting got its name, shall we say, because KFBK is at the upper spectrum of the AM dial intense. We used to get QSL cards from New Zealand. We used to get QSL cards. KFBK could be picked up in Australia. We got QSL cards from places we didn't know were places. You know, like when you lay around in the sand and all of a sudden you find that there's sand in places you didn't know there were places. I mean, we could have gotten cards from the planet Zephron. I used to joke about that in the 70s, where I got my Zephron joke. And I said, somewhere there's a little green alien on the planet Zephron listening to KFBK at night because our power is kicking massive ass. But what I was attempting to say is, moreover, I think, this. Oh, you've lit a good one under my butt right now, Mike. Nice job. Well done. I think in 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 or 60 years, somewhere within that span, we're going to make the not just the nation, but the planet is going to come to the realization that, God, I can't even think of her name now. Admiral Grace Hopper, that's it. Admiral Grace Hopper should have been located and strung up when she invented COBOL. Because what I'm postulating is that going digital is, I believe in retrospect, going to be considered by many as the downfall of much of civilization. And I'm sure that there are probably a lot of people right now thinking or saying to themselves or mumbling, or maybe they're even doing what I did earlier today, which is go out to the corner, hold a placard, and yell at traffic, is, BZ, you're a tinfoil hat-wearing son of a bitch, and why? Well, everybody knows I'm a techno-Luddite, but why would you go and say something as stupid, as reprehensibly stupid as that? And the reason is that if anything is digital, it can and will be hacked. We know for a fact that automobiles have already been given from the outside uncommanded turns from the driver. We already know that certain aircraft have responded to uncommanded prompts, not from the pilot, but from being hacked. If you think that your life in the government, if putting all of your life and everything that you do on the internet or in some form of file is the perfect way of ensuring that you can share information, oh yes, information will be shared and you will have no privacy. We essentially have no privacy anymore. But I think if something occurs, there's going to be some sort of a predicating event, I know not what, in which finally the curtains are going to be ripped apart and the bulk of this nation, or perhaps even the planet, is going to sit back and consider, I think going digital was one of the worst things that we ever did. We did it for convenience because we're lazy. But I'm of the opinion that sooner or later, the digital wave has not crested or broken. The Internet of Things is not yet big enough in terms of where the manufacturers and other people think that we need to be going. Mm-hmm. Social media hasn't gotten to the point where they control every aspect sufficiently of your life. Social media, you have to understand, folks, is working concomitantly, hand in hand with the U.S. government. Social media is working hand in hand with communist China as well, to include Facebook and Google and the Alphabet Corporation. And if you've gotten me and lighted a fire under my ass, Mike Pasqua, thank you for that. I appreciate it, because this was going to sturmel out in some fashion, because I'm going to get to that article that I mentioned by David French about how
my point, BZ, was not about the big radio station, about the 50,000 watt or the 40,000 watt. It's hard to even get a 1,000 watt radio station off the ground.
Oh, that's very true. That's very true, because it is government licensed by the FCC. I'm guessing that your point was that it takes property, it takes an area, it takes a building, an office, a transmitter, a license, the proper acceptance, the rules, regulations, and ascriptions by the FCC, the granting of your ability to broadcast in whatever wattage you have the money or power to acquire. My thought was, if we get to the point where digitally we can no longer communicate if we're conservatives, my guess would be, because the money aspect and the property aspect and the office aspect of radio, they're not going to go away, because that's what you need in terrestrial radio. Right. But what I was prognosticating is, it's not entirely impossible that a consortium of really big conservative people get together and make a larger availability to persons on air who have a voice. We're not there yet. We're far from being there yet.
No, we're not there yet.
But I think the potential exists.
To me, it would only take one thing. It would only take somebody exploding an EMP that would kill all the digital and kill all the computers. That's what it would take.
Well, and that's not impossible. There was a book about that. Now I can't remember the name of he was an ABC news anchor who wrote a book about what essentially an EMP would do to the country and also to the world. But you make a point in that regard. I'm just suggesting that we've not yet crested the wave in terms of how digital is going to command our lives and rule our lives even more. We're not even getting to that point. And in chat, 3755, which I think is the Alaskan, said, and you can't say the 7 words on FCC air. Yes, I can say shit, bullshit, and fuck on the internet right now and other things. I've said them before, and I'll say them again. I can still, however, get my message across if I'm a sufficiently cogent messenger without resorting to using those words. I do, because historically over the years I've had to be, because of my nature and because of my background in law enforcement, I've had to be very careful in certain situations to make sure that I don't use any of those 7 words, so to speak. But the nature of the job is I've been fairly profane over my life, and I've been trying to tamp that down over the past year or so that I don't say quite so many of poo-poo nasties. That having been said, though, I think
we about the newspaper, about what he said about the newspapers. We saw this recently. I don't know if it was the Washington Post or one of these newspapers that got sold for, one of these big, huge newspapers that got sold for like pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, that's true. Listen. Mike, thanks for the call. I greatly appreciate it. It's time for the bottom of the hour break, which I'm actually going to do on time. When we come back, and Mike, thanks, I appreciate it. When we come back, I'm going to read this article about the Second Court of Appeals and Trump blocking Twitter users. And then I've also got some information from articles regarding social media and with regard to leftists and journalism. I use that in air quotes, journalism, because there's something developing here. There's something burbling under the surface, and it's really being exposed these days, which tends to me to lend credence to what I'm saying or thinking. I'll proffer these things to you when we come back right after the break. And thanks for hanging around. Thanks for sticking here so late.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, McCLENTON. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. Only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is I, the bloviating Zeppelin, here in the saloon. Had a great guest for the first hour, Ken McCLENTON of TECN, The Exceptional Conservative Network. Listen to Ken Monday through Friday, theexceptionalconservative.com. Go there. He's got a TV show that you can watch Monday through Friday. He does some stuff on the weekends, too. So this dude is always broadcasting, which is why I was so glad and happy that he took the time to be here tonight. Anytime that Ken is here is always a great time, and you learn a lot of stuff from Ken, and I greatly appreciate that. I told folks that I would get into an article about Twitter and Trump. Before I do that, we'd been speaking the past half hour, and also with Ken a little bit, about the media in general. I found 2 articles recently that were really illustrative of where this is tending to go right now. And this, I find this also interesting because the newest article that I'm going to talk to you about in terms of a major network, we've seen articles about this coming and in fairly consistent session for the past month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, basically. And that there would be a new article, let's see, what is this? 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago, this article just came out, which is why I find it remarkably illustrative of where this is going. And then another, this article is about broadcast media. The next article is about print media. And I have very pointed things to say about both articles. Let's start with the first one. This is from a gentleman by the name of Brian Flood. And the headline says this: CNN, we're talking about CNN again. CNN mired in a credibility crisis as ratings. See, ratings have been plummeting on CNN for quite some time. Ratings really took a tank. For a while there, Rachel Maddow, and I believe she's on MSNBC, but for a while there, Rachel Maddow was right up there with Sean Hannity and a lot of stuff that was happening at Fox because people were hoping and waiting with bated breath that Mueller was really going to find that crap on Trump, and it was going to be splayed all out like the open legs of a hooker for all to see, and the OMB, Orange Man Bad, was going to be revealed for the horrible individual that he is, and that didn't happen. Rachel Maddow's ratings on MSNBC went. It has always been happening on CNN. It's just getting worse at CNN. CNN, okay, their ratings are going down, but now the gist of this article is CNN is suffering a credibility crisis as viewership for the once, this is, I can't do the voice. I can't do the Luke, I am your father voice. This is CNN. I can't do that. CNN is suffering a credibility crisis as viewership for the once proud network continues to crater, with no apparent plan in place to fix things anytime soon, according to media watchdogs and insiders. Well, you know why. We'll get to why in a second. This is about stats now. CNN's audience shriveled in the second quarter of 2019, averaging about 541,000 total viewers, less than half of Fox News Channel's 1.3 million average. CNN struggled even more during the primetime hours of 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern, finishing as the 15th most watched network on basic cable, behind, I love this part, this is where BZ's sense of schadenfreude comes in, behind networks such as the Learning Channel, Investigation Discovery, and the Hallmark Channel, where basically it's Christmas 24/7, the Hallmark Channel. I throw this in as well. CNN is also being beaten by the 24-hour Tibetan bell-ringing channel, which is an up-and-comer, I should care to point out. CNN averaged a dismal 761,000 primetime viewers, while FNC averaged 2.4 million. The Hill, there's a guy called Joe Concha, and he works for The Hill. And The Hill it leans to the left. This Joe Concha guy he's kind of a moderate dude. But basically, what he was alleging is that CNN's free fall, as far as he's concerned, it's not stopping, which I find very interesting. Now, back that up with this article that I found today about the print media. And again, schadenfreude, this, like Chief Dan George says, when I read stuff like this, I have to tell you, frankly, in terms of schadenfreude, my heart soars like an eagle when I hear this. This is from the New York Post today. Starbucks will stop selling newspapers in September. Wait a minute. Starbucks is going to stop selling newspapers in September. Well, that's okay, isn't it? Because we get most of our news on the internet. Stop and think about that. Stop and think about this just for a second. Starbucks, which is a leftist organization that sells leftist coffee that a lot of people go to because they have a lot of convenient drive-ins, not necessarily because they like the acidic crap that it calls coffee, but because they have convenience and you can drive through and you can order your coffee and look cool, and they have free Wi-Fi. But Starbucks is a leftist organization. This is interesting. It says if you want to read the newspaper at Starbucks, you'll have to start bringing your own. The Seattle-based coffee giant, beginning September 1st, will no longer, listen, this is glorious, will no longer sell the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, or USA Today at its 8,000 shops nationwide, the Post has learned, the New York Post. In various Starbucks around my area, the other newspaper that they carry is the Sacramento Bee, because I'm in Sacramento, the capital of California, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines from the locus of evil, which really is the locus of evil, and I really am 2 miles east of that evil building, the Capitol building in Sacramento at 10th and L Street. And the Sacramento Bee is nothing more than a leftist propaganda rag. It's not even close to being a newspaper. Well, Starbucks carries the Bee. By the way, that's the only game in town in terms of newspapers. The Sacramento Union, which at one point Mark Twain wrote for, started in the 1800s. Oh, that's gone. That's been gone since the mid-90s. There aren't enough people on the right or moderates to keep the Sacramento Union going. It's all about the Bee. Massive leftist paper. Go to sacbee.com. Look at any of the articles that are there right now and tell me that it's a real news article instead of an op-ed piece. Well, Starbucks is going to stop carrying them too. So what's my point? The point is we have leftists shooting leftists in the head because leftists are no longer going to continue to carry the print organs of the left. And for that, I have to admit, I find that absolutely glorious. So, once again, leftists shooting themselves in the head. Let's go back just for a second to the CNN piece, where CNN is just plummeting. It's cratering badly. Bigly, I should say. It's bigly. But when that happens, what more is happening behind the scenes? In other words, the article said, and this is the part I really love. What is true about CNN right now is also true about the Democrat Party. So let me ask you this, what I consider to be an incredibly salient question, and you tell me the answer to this. You scream it out at the top of your voice, even though it's really, really late at night. You might wake up your neighbors, or at least scare the cat. Or shake up the goldfish. Have you fed the goldfish recently? For those of you with a fish tank, have you fed your fish today? If you haven't, you better go feed your damn fish. But I have to ask you this. Do you think, in your inestimable opinion, opine on this for me, please. Do you think CNN has the present ability to stop its cratering? That is to say, does CNN possess the ability to actually enact the first rule of holes? Do you think they do? Okay, here we go. Guest 3755 is asking for happy news. Okay, all right, I'll do this one article, then I'll go over to happy news. Don't tell me that I don't react to people in the chat room, because I do. So I ask you, do you think CNN has the ability to stop its tanking? I say no. Do you think that the DNC and the Democrats have the ability to stop going further left? They do not. They don't have that ability, which is why I link those two. And I think those two articles coming out today and yesterday are very, very important because they are indicative of a theme and a trend that I think will roll over to 2020. And again, for those of you who are not watching on the SHR Media YouTube channel, if you're interested in calling in, the phones lines are open. They're on the video right now, and I put them in the chat room. And if, you have a piece of paper, you can write this down. If you want to call 209-284-3210, 209-284-3210. DNC, CNN, do they have the ability to stop being stupid, silly, and fattening? And the answer is I don't think so. No, not even remotely close. They don't even have that. 3755 says, no, that was happy news. No, I would agree with you. I would agree because they do not know. They do not possess the ability to understand what the first rule of holes means. When you're in a hole, stop digging. Here's the article by David French from National Review. David French can be kind of a fucktard sometimes, but he made an interesting observation with regard to this. The headline is, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals was wrong to rule that Trump can't block Twitter users. And when I read this, I found, now this is an interesting insight that I had not thought of very much. Here's David French. He says, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals was wrong to rule that Trump can't block Twitter users. Here's why. Earlier today, a couple of days ago, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals ruled unanimously that Donald Trump cannot block Twitter users from following his @RealDonaldTrump account. It's an interesting decision from an ideologically diverse judicial panel that at first glance appears to be a straightforward application of conventional First Amendment law. It's also wrong. It makes a crucial error that reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of speech on private social media platforms. That made me want to read further. Boiled down to its essence, the court's reasoning contained two key elements. First, it ruled that Trump's Twitter account represents an outlet for official communications and interactions that is controlled by President Trump. Remember that. Very important. Second, it found that under these circumstances, Trump's decision to block users represents impermissible state action undertaken to suppress dissent. The first element is fundamentally mistaken. By no traditional legal measure of control does Trump control his Twitter account. Aha! Twitter owns and controls his account, and he has no legal right to wrest control of it from Twitter. The court's misunderstanding of the platform is made evident by this deeply flawed analysis. The fact that governmental control over property is temporary, or that the government does not own the property in the sense that it holds title to the property, is not determinative of whether the property is in fact sufficiently controlled by the government to make it a forum for First Amendment purposes. And then he gives a citation. Holding privately owned theater leased to operated by the city was a public forum. Then he continues. There is no control at all, temporary or otherwise. When a politician rents a theater or other private venue, there is typically an exchange of money and a rental agreement that explicitly grants enforceable legal rights to access the property and control others' access to the property, and critically, limits the landlord's power during the course of the rental. Compare that level of control to the absolute lack of rights the user has under Twitter's terms of service. And they are this: we may suspend or terminate your account or cease providing you with all or part of the services at any time, for any or no reason, including but not limited to, if we believe reasonably, 1, you have violated these terms of the Twitter rules or Periscope community guidelines, 2, you create risk or possible legal exposure for us, 3, your account should be removed due to prolonged inactivity, or 4, our provision of the services to you is no longer commercially viable. Who has the control? There is no exchange of money. The user has no right to the platform, and Twitter can not only eliminate your access entirely, but censor any single tweet. It's happened to you, it's happened to me. If it chooses, it can even remove Trump's ability to block, mute, or take any other action, and that's not all. When you use Twitter, your speech isn't even purely your speech any longer. Twitter grants itself the right to your communications too. This is right out of Twitter. By submitting, posting, or displaying content on or through the services, you grant us a worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free license with the right to sublicense to use, copy, reproduce, process, adapt, modify, publish, transmit, display, and distribute such content in any and all media or distribution methods now known or later developed. David French continues, writing in response to the trial court's ruling against Trump last year, law professor Greg Dolan compared Twitter to a radio call-in show that's hosting a government official as a guest. The politician has no right to be on the show. The host can send the politician packing at any time. And the host has ultimate control over not only the politician's presence, but also any caller's speech. In other words, Trump remains on Twitter entirely at Twitter's discretion. What aspect, I'm stopping here just for a moment, what any of those aspects do you think is incorrect? I agree with this all, which is why I think this is an incredibly important article. In that circumstance, there is no public forum. There is instead a public official using a private platform to attempt to amplify his specific message with the permission of the entity that controls the platform. The court's ruling in this circumstance represents government intervention in Twitter's control of its own service. The court is overriding the permissions Twitter gave its own user. Moreover, the court gives short shrift to Trump's own free speech rights under the government speech doctrine. Again, to borrow one of Professor Dolan's analogies, if a politician is holding a rally in a park, a traditional public forum, it doesn't follow that he must permit critics to share the stage with him. Oh, yeah. That's right. The Twitter thread beneath any tweet can undermine or amplify the president's chosen message so long as Twitter grants the user the ability to regulate his or her Twitter replies. Then that regulation is an integral part of the user's expression. This is also a very interesting notation by David French. If, say, Kamala Harris wins the White House, and Twitter permits her to use its services to announce that she's forming a committee to study the feasibility of reparations for slavery, does she then have to allow that thread to be hijacked by white nationalists and other vile alt-right voices? David French asks. I say no. The Second Circuit says yes. Very interesting point, David French. This is his final paragraph. He writes, it's common for social media users to use phrases like my Facebook page or my Twitter feed. Yes, it is my speech on social media, but it is not my page or my feed. A private company is allowing a public official to use the private company's services to amplify his message. The private company is in legal control, not the public official. And if members of the public don't want to be blocked on a Twitter feed, they should take their objections to Twitter, not to a federal court. And I find that very, very salient as well. And again, I have so much information. Oh, this is good. This just came out. This could, all right, BZ, even though you don't have a producer, get into your production mode and put on your production hat.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
I just saw this today. Once I saw this, I thought, oh, I got to talk about this tonight. A hockey coach who went viral for a pro-national anthem message, I take pride in my country. There is and I have what he said. And for those of you who are faint of heart, there is an F word in here, I think. A Connecticut hockey coach who went viral for telling his players to stand for the American and Canadian national anthems said today, Thursday, well, it's still Thursday on the left coast, he's not going to apologize for asking his players to show respect. John Kropinski, an assistant coach for the Danbury Hat Tricks of the Federal Hockey League, appeared on Fox and Friends and said the national anthem is important to him. Imagine that. He said, I take pride in my country. He's also a police sergeant with the Danbury Police Department. Imagine that. He says, this is a quote, I've unfortunately seen it cover too many coffins. I think we can take a time out to give 2 minutes worth of respect to our soldiers, to our firemen, to your policemen. I don't think that's asking too much. And I'm not going to apologize for asking players to show a little bit of respect when it's either the American or Canadian national anthem. Some people said, you wouldn't let your players protest. And I want to be clear. My players would be free to protest on their day off, he said. If they had something they wanted to do, my owners are awesome. They would give them the team bus to go. But when they're playing the national anthem, I don't think it's too much to ask your employees to show some respect for the flag and for the country. Stop. What is somebody that works for the National Football League? Yes, there are not governors, there are owners. There are owners that own the individual teams in the NFL. At its most fundamental and base, what is the NFL? It's a TV show. Those are employees. They have contracts. It is a private corporation. The owners, not the stupid governors, the owners have a right to demand that players show some respect in whatever way and fashion the owners determine, as long as it's not illegal. Isn't that correct? That would be correct. Kropinski said, if there's anybody here who's going to be well, okay. You know what? Why should I read his words? Because I think it's time to hear his words. Oh, come on. Hang on 1 second. I got to make sure this plays here. Let's go back. Okay. Now I've got the volume on. Go for it. Oh. For whatever.
We're not the NFL.
Here we go. I had to open it up so that you guys can hear it now. Okay, John Kropinski, hockey coach.
Hey guys, listen up for a second. First day of camp. Something really important. Okay, we're not women's soccer. We're not the NFL. If there's anybody here that's going to be disrespectful to either the American or the Canadian national anthem, grab your gear and get the fuck out now, because you'll never see the ice in this arena. We don't have that problem in hockey. We're better than that. But there was no sense in wasting anybody's time if that shit was going to happen. I don't believe it would happen here. We're the most patriotic sport that they have out there. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Monsieur has unlocked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct, here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Thanks to Big Sarge Media for simulcasting my show on their Facebook page, except Facebook wasn't cooperating tonight. Darn that Facebook. Promotional consideration by the Lockheed Martin the Skunk Works, okay? And the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And of course, Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You can trust. Also, by the Allahu Snack Bar, a little bit of Muhammad in every bite. Tiaras by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Thanks to Ken McCLENTON for being here in the first hour. Thanks to you for being in chat and for listening in podcast, listening live. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here tonight. You folks have a great weekend. God bless. Be here. Be safe. Be here. Be safe. Have a great weekend.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night and good luck.